What's up? This is Trey T, and in this video, I want to discuss what happened to Drew Lock. But before I do that, I have one thing that I have to say. Where are all those delusional Bronco fans and Drew Lock sympathizers who blamed everybody else except for Drew Lock? Y'all always kept making excuses for Drew Lock and his average to trash play. Oh, well, he never got a real opportunity. Well, you got to realize he had multiple offensive coordinators. It's not Lock's fault. It was Pat Schumer's play calling. Well, maybe if Jerry Jeudy could catch the damn ball, we would get more yards. Well, Vic Fangio never liked Drew anyway. That's why he made Teddy Bridgewater the starting quarterback, even though the job was already Drew Lock's to lose, and Drew Lock lost that job. Well, we need to just come on. They're overdoing it. Just give Lock another season. Give him another chance. Well, oh man, Teddy, two gloves. Man, maybe we should go back to Lock, man. At least he can throw the deep ball better than Teddy. Well, what do you expect Lock to do? He doesn't even have time to throw. Look at the line. As soon as he hiked the ball, there's 2 or 3 defenders right in his face. That wasn't even Lock's fault. The receiver couldn't catch. But how can you blame that on Drew Lock? It's not Drew Lock's fault. Man, they're sabotaging Drew Lock, man. The receivers, they're not catching the ball, blah, 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 blah. Y'all made every excuse for Drew Lock. So the Broncos trade Drew Lock. They trade him to Seattle. This is Drew Lock's opportunity to prove everybody wrong. I don't want anybody career ended because they played badly. I want you to succeed. This is your opportunity. Prove everybody wrong. You in a whole new team. Not only are you at the team, the Broncos traded some of your players with you. You get your tight end, Noah Fant, who I think was Drew Lock's favorite receiver, favorite target to throw to. You get Noah Fant to come with you. You get Shelby Harris. This is your opportunity to show people the Broncos made a mistake. John Elway made a mistake. Vic Fangio made a mistake. This is your opportunity to show everyone. So what happened? These right here are some prime examples of what it was like as a Bronco fan dealing with people who are more, it feels like they were more Lock supporters and Lock lovers than actual Bronco fans. And the game against the Ravens, when Teddy Bridgewater got hurt and Drew Lock had to finish the game and ended up throwing an interception at the end, that's the game where the Ravens set the record, kept their record going when they ran the ball at the end to get the last 5 yards. The dude said, one no facade said, when Drew got in the game, all the offensive players started half-assing. And the person who does the content for that page said, Lock doesn't have the leadership capability. Teddy may have not performed well either, but he's got leadership of the team down. Another time, this is when it was announced that Drew Lock will be traded to Seattle. All of the rest of the last 4, or when they said Drew Lock will be traded to Seattle for Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, and 4 or 5 draft picks. What is this? Alperzoma? Something like that. I don't know his name. He said, bruh, Drew Lock will do better in Seattle. Watch. Another dude, WDS Live Flex 21 said, I'm going to tell y'all now, Lock go pop off and see 100%. Tobernator 45 said, we're just going to be in the same boat when Russell Wilson retires. We should have kept Locke as a backup. Eric Trevino 559 said, watch Locke going to be good as fuck. I think he's a diamond in the rough. He never had a coaching staff behind. I told you, he never had a coaching staff behind him. It's a shame, but glad he's gonna have a. But be glad. I think he meant to say, be glad we're gonna have a great quarterback now. I think he's talking about Russell Wilson. But just to summarize, that's just a prime example. Those are only a few. I'm pretty sure it was probably like 50 more, but I only was looking for 5 to show. 5 examples to show in this video. But trust me, every Sunday when I used to go to the comment section and blame Drew Lock for doing stupid shit, there was a lot of people that would comment on my shit. And don't get me wrong though, I get it. I was one of those people that fell victim of Drew Lock's rookie season also when they finished 4-1. I remember, I forgot which game it was. I think it was the game against the Lions, or it might have been the game against the Texans. I say, hey, we probably finally got us a quarterback now with the Broncos. I get it. I was one of those people. I admit it. But then the next year, when he was a full-time starter, and I got an opportunity to see him play. Then I went back and I actually looked at those games that he played in. So if you actually go back and look at those 5 games he started at the end of the season, because remember he got hurt in training camp and was out like the first 10 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that. Look at the 5 teams that they played. They played the Chargers, Texans, Chiefs, Lions, and Raiders. The Texans and the Chiefs probably, those are the only 2 that made the playoff. The Chiefs ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. But the Chargers, Lions, and Raiders, and look at his yard, look at his games though. Like, people tried to make it seem like he only threw for 200 yards twice. When his best game in his whole career was that game against the Texans, where he threw for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, got sacked once. And the Broncos won 38-24. The Chargers were not a good team that year. The Lions haven't been a good team in years. And the Raiders weren't a good team that year. You see what happened when we played the Chiefs. What did he do against the Chiefs? 208 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. We scored 3 points, lost 20. It was 23 to 3. But like, let's actually look at those teams from that season. The Chargers finished 5-11. The Texans finished 10-6. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl that year. They finished 12-4. The Lions finished 3-12-1, and the Raiders finished 7-9. The Chargers were 21st in points scored. The Texans were 14th. The Chiefs were 5th. The Lions were 18th, and the Raiders were 24th. And yards allowed. The Texans, the Chargers defense was actually good. They were 6th. The Texans were 28th. The Chiefs 17th. The Lions 31st, and the Raiders were 19th. And defensive points allowed per game, the Chargers top 15. They were 14 out of 32. Texans 19th out of 32. The Chiefs was top 10 defense, 7th out of 32. The Lions were 26th out of 26th out of 32, and the Raiders were 24th of 32. So let's not act like the Broncos just beat some world-class teams. It wasn't like they were beating the Ravens or the Patriots or the Rams or any, like the Seahawks. Well, at that point, what is it, 2019? So nah, not the Seahawks, but Pittsburgh. It wasn't like they were beating those teams with Drew Lock. So like again, I fell for it too. But now let's look at Drew Lock, what he did versus playoff teams in the season. Teams that ended up going to the playoffs. Again, his best game is that one against the Texans. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But look at all the games against the Chiefs. 208 yards, 254 yards, but no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 times sacked. 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 0 sack. And that game against Buffalo, I wish I could forget that game. 132 yards, 1 touchdown. The Broncos got blew out in that game. So against the playoff teams, he got 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 7 sacks. Because I saw so many Bronco fans trying to compare him to Josh Allen. But the difference was, you can say what you want about the Broncos. They had the defense, but the Broncos have always had skill position players. We just haven't had the quarterback to get them the ball right. Josh Allen didn't have that in Buffalo, and he still made the playoffs his second season. Look who he was throwing into his first 18 games compared to Drew Lock's first 18 games. Josh Allen's first 18 career games, he had 3,398 passing yards, 821 rushing yards, 17 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 28 total touchdowns. He got sacked 43 times and had a total of 4,219 total yards. And this is who he was throwing into, though. Cole Beasley, Charles Clay, Robert Foster, Kelvin Benjamin, Zay Jones, John Brown, Dawson Knox. And these are Drew Lock's stats his first 18 games. He had more passing yards, 3,953. He had way fewer rushing yards, 232. He had more passing touchdowns, 23 passing touchdowns. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. He threw more interceptions, 18 interceptions. He had a total of 26 total touchdowns. He got sacked way fewer times than Josh Allen with 24 sacks. And he had fewer total yards with 4,185. But look who Drew Lock was throwing into compared to what Josh Allen was throwing into. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, Deontay Spencer, Albert Okwuegbunam, Tim Patrick, Tyree Cleveland, Deshaun Hamilton, and Nick Vannett. I'll take, other than maybe Cole Beasley, I'll take any of those players over what Josh Allen was throwing. Now let's look at Drew Lock. Let's compare Drew Lock to another quarterback, Gardner Minshew. This is Drew Lock in 24 games played and 21 games started, and Gardner Minshew in 27 games, 22 games started. Gardner Minshew has 63% completion rate to Drew Lock's 59. Gardner Minshew has 8 wins and 14 losses. Drew Lock has 8 wins, 13 losses. Passing yards, Gardner Minshew has 5,969. Drew Lock has 4,740. Passing touchdowns, Gardner Minshew had 41 passing touchdowns to Drew Lock's 25. That's 16 more touchdowns. Drew Lock has 5 rushing touchdowns to Gardner Minshew's 1. Gardner Minshew did get sacked way more times than Drew Lock with 65, and Lock only got sacked 33 times. Gardner Minshew had 18 fumbles, and Drew Lock had 13. Based off those numbers, I'm going to assume that had a lot to do with the line. If you got that many fumbles and sacks, I'm going to say a line plays a big part in that. But look at the interceptions. Drew Lock, 20 interceptions to 12 for Gardner Minshew. So, like, again, Drew Lock had weapons to throw to. Now let's compare him. Now I know this is really not a fair comparison, but let's compare Drew Lock to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And this is from like October 2021. Look at the total number of touchdowns and look at the total number of interceptions. Herbert got 45 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, 9 fumbles. Burrow, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Lock, 23 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. And he played more games than them except for Justin Herbert. And look at the completion percentage, 59% for Lock, 67% for Burrow, and 66% for Herbert. And his first time as a full-time starter, Drew Lock, full-time starter. This is during COVID. The NFL had protocols in place. They didn't want people close together when they're in like meeting rooms and stuff like that. So Drew Lock and the other quarterback, and like they had like devices that monitored how close they were to each other. And Drew Lock and the other quarterbacks took it off when they was in the quarterback room and hid them, so they didn't think nobody would find out. But then I think it was Jeff Driscoll. One of the quarterbacks ended tested positive for corona. So that means all the quarterbacks had to be quarantined. So Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, Jeff Driscoll, they all had to be quarantined. The Broncos did not have a quarterback. They were going to be playing the Saints. They didn't have a quarterback. So the Broncos, they didn't move the Broncos game like they did for the Ravens when the Ravens had all those players with COVID. The Broncos were forced to have to play. And they were forced to go get Kendall Hinton, I think he was a quarterback in college, but in the NFL, he's a receiver. They had to make Kendall Hinton play quarterback against the Saints. He completed one pass, and the Broncos lost to the Saints. It was like 27-3 or something like that. And I will never forget that game because that was just horrible having that man go out there and try to play quarterback on short notice like that. The Broncos, just think about this. The Broncos hadn't lost to the Saints since 1994. And that's the way they get their first loss versus the Saints in like 25 years. Because Drew Lock, who's supposed to be the leader, he's the quarterback. He is supposed to be the leader. He didn't want to follow protocol. So because of that, the Broncos, all the quarterbacks had to quarantine, and you had to put a receiver at quarterback. And now you're going into your third season, the 2021 season. You just started last year. The Broncos signed Teddy Bridgewater. They traded for Teddy Bridgewater, I think, from the Panthers. You were the starter last year. It's your job to lose. You can't all you got to do is keep your job. That's all you have to do. Teddy Bridgewater is a journeyman quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater had just barely had his best season. Teddy Bridgewater was drafted in 2014. He had barely just had his best season ever last year with the Carolina Panthers. And they traded him to the Broncos. And Drew Lock lost his starting job to Teddy Bridgewater. It was yours to lose. All you had to do was just enough not to lose your job. But you couldn't do that. You let a journeyman quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater take your spot, and all those Drew Lock fans, oh man, Vic Fangio, he just doesn't like Lock. Pat Schumer doesn't like Lock. That's why why did they put Teddy Bridgewater in? He's on his third or fourth team, and since he's been drafted, they just don't like Lock. So now, it's a new team in Seattle. The Broncos trade you to Seattle after the season. Russell Wilson is gone now. This is your opportunity to prove everybody wrong. Here you go, Drew Lock. Here it is. It's right there on a plate for you. Take that shit. Show everybody that they were wrong about you. All you have to do is battle another journeyman quarterback in Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith is in the same damn draft as Teddy Bridgewater. Both of them are journeyman quarterbacks. I remember it was one game where I think Geno Smith threw like 3 interceptions in a row. Like, I looked down on my phone, interception. I looked down again, interception. I looked down again, interception. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is when he was with the Jets. But this is the dude. Pete Carroll said they are going forth with Geno Smith as the starter. The Broncos play the Seahawks the first game of the season. It would have been perfect to see Russell Wilson go against the Seahawks and Drew Lock have to go against the Broncos. But now it's just going to be Russell Wilson versus Geno Smith. You lost your job. It was your job again to lose. Everybody thought that Drew Lock would win that job over Geno Smith. And he didn't. So that's what I want to know. That is the point of this entire video. What happened to Drew Lock? All you delusional Bronco fans and Drew Lock supporters, What happened to him? I thought he would show us all. He was gonna prove us wrong. We doubted him, and we should have kept him. I thought he was gonna prove us wrong. Why isn't he doing it? He still hasn't proved us wrong. Why? What is happening? Why is he still not a starter? Why is he benched for Geno Smith? Now, I don't believe Geno Smith will start the entire season. I think Geno, by like week 5 or 6, he'll messed up, and they'll put Drew Lock in there again. So maybe then he'll be ready to take over a team and lead a team. He'll have DK Metcalf. He'll have Tyler Lockett. He'll have Noah Fant. So, hey, we'll see. But until then, I don't want to hear nothing else from those delusional Bronco fans. But as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Like and comment. More videos coming soon. Trey T out. Also, if you were Drew Lock, one of those Drew Lock stands, those fans that supported Drew Lock, whatever he did wrong, what is your reasoning behind that, and how do you feel now? Peace.